Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. My name is SprinkleBeard. Stream every day over at twitch.tv/SprinkleBeard from 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And today we are doing more of our champion reviews on the Dwarves. Today's combination is not the Force Dwarves. We've already done them. We are moving on to the only four Spirit Dwarves. So, without further ado, let's get started. Please note that the reviews I'm going to be giving are based upon free-to-play players and new players to the game. Also understand that the stats that I'm about to say and announce are my own personal made-up stats that I think and I judge champions by. There's nowhere set in stone. These are not like statistical averages or anything. This is just what I've come up with, and for me, helps me determine how much I like a champion or how squishy they are, stuff like that. So, we are looking at the Spirit Attack Rare Dwarf Madman. So, HP I would like to see around 16,000, even for an attack, so that's a little bit low. Attack I would like to see around 1,200, and then because it would be his opposite stat, would be defense, I'd like to see closer to 1,000. Here we can see that they've clearly gone much heavier into an attack, so that's not bad, especially because his speed stat is so close to 100. I'd like to see 100 or higher. And then he has increased crit damage and increased resistance. Crit damage is normally 50, and then resistance is normally 30 on any champion. Crit rate is always 15%, and accuracy is almost always 0. So, stat-wise, he's a bit squishy at the moment, right? He's going to be squishier because of the HP and the defense. But let's look at his skills, because if you go first and you have enough attack, you might not care, right? Attacks one enemy, will ignore 30% of the target's defense. Good skill. Ignores block damage and shield buffs. This is very good, and then I even like that when you book him here, he does get more damage, and it's like escalating damage. So this skill might hit very well. I do like skills like this. I wish there was more things that ignored, block damage and shields. It's funny though, because really pay attention to what skills you have. I have a legendary who ignores unkillable and shields, but not block damage. And it's so frustrating every time I come into a block damage. Really make sure you're paying attention to what your champion ignores. Otherwise, you could potentially be wasting a skill and some really big damage on an attacker like this. Attacks all enemies and then heals this champion by 10% of the damage inflicted if this champion's current HP is 50% or below. I do like skills like this on attack champions, right? It's a way for them to self-sustain, or if they get really low, gives them a way to kind of come back as a last-ditch effort. It's obviously not as good as like an attack all and then some type of debuff, right? Like a defense decrease or even an attack decrease would help out the team live longer. It's not that by any means that this is bad. It's just a little bit of a too selfish skill, and it works really well on a rare champion, because on rare champions, you're just kind of getting into the game. So skills like that can be very, very valuable in the early game. Understand that the later in the game you go, the less useful that becomes, right? Last one, Wild Slashing. Attacks one enemy, has a 50% chance of attacking all other enemies with the second hit, dealing 30% of the damage inflicted from the first. So that's kind of interesting. The fact that it debuffs itself makes me not like it, but it works really well with the Madman mechanic. Something else I need to explain. Something else I need to explain is when we're looking at these stats, the reason that we view these stats in the index is we want the stats to be fair, right? We want to understand that, rares are at 3-star, epics are at 4-star. You couldn't compare a 3-star champion to a 4-star. That would be like super cruel. And it's even really hard to compare a rare to an epic or even a legendary. A rare to a legendary is kind of wildly off. So we view these champions at 6 stars, and if you 6-star ascended them to get these bonus stats. So if you got Madman and he doesn't have this bonus crit damage and you're wondering where that is, there's your explanation why. I should have put this explanation. I should probably have like a little explanation thing of everything I'm about to say beforehand. Overall, I do like him. He would be a good spirit attacker, right? If you got him early enough, or if you need a spirit attacker. He does bring a lot of interesting things to a team. Nothing super amazing, though, but he's not terrible. Not terrible at all. All right. Next, we have Master Butcher. I love the design of this little dwarf. He looks like an insane madman. And I like how like his shield is just this little tiny shield because potentially he's a butcher, right? He's just got this tenderizing mallet and now he's being sent to war. He is a support for the dwarves though, right? So HP is over that 16,000. I'm really happy to see an increased HP stat. Because he's support, I usually like to see more defense and then attack. I would like to see 1,200 and 1,000. This isn't a huge deal. Again, supports, they usually have lower stats. Speed is in a good place though, at 100. That makes me happy to see. And then he does have increased resistance, which is very common for the dwarves, but very good for dwarves / support to be anti-magic, right? So we have two passives here. Revives a random ally with full HP when this champion is killed. It's really nice, right? He's got a martyr type passive here. And that is also in general fantastic for things like faction wars, right? This could even be good like if something hits you with a surprising amount of damage that you weren't accounting for, or in general, right? One of your champions dies early and you're like, well, crap, you now have a chance to get that champion back. So an interesting revive mechanic on a rare. When attacked, heals all allies equal to the amount of damage taken. However, does not work against bosses. I love skills like this. Understand though, this is a passive with a cooldown. So this means that you'd have to book him and get these cooldowns down to 1 turn. And then that also means that your Master Butcher will have this passive at the beginning of a fight. Let's say the enemy team goes first, right? So their person attacks Master Butcher. There goes his passive. So if the enemy team has a second person who then goes and attacks Master Butcher will not heal everybody equal to the damage taken. He will not get back his passive until it is his turn again. It's something that took me a while to understand in the game when I first started playing. I played with a high elf named Eris, who has a counterattack function in the same way, and I was wondering why she wasn't constantly counterattacking, and then was very disappointed that she was not just constantly counterattacking. Still a very good skill, very good on his support, right? So he has a revive and heals as he takes damage. That both things are terrific, right? Places a provoke debuff on the target, or on a target enemy for 2 turns, and then places a 15% crit rate on all allies for 2 turns. Places a 25% attack buff on all allies. This is really good. Even though this is not a 25% crit rate and a 50% attack, the fact that you also have a provoke in here, and more importantly, he's provoking an enemy and then buffing everybody else in your party for attacks, and he wants to be attacked, right? He's got a passive where he heals people based upon when he's attacked. I'm really liking his kit so far. This is looking to be a very impressive kit. He would be a great support, right? So if you've been rocking your War Priest right now, or even a Spirit Host, who are War Priest you get no matter what, and then Spirit Host you can easily get in the campaign by farming campaign number 4. This is an amazing support. Like right now, you know, we've only read his passives, and you know, we liked his passives, but the fact that he's got to provoke, and more importantly, this is a 100% chance to provoke. I say 100% chance because there are things that can affect it. You still need accuracy to place a provoke. It might work, you know, if the opponent's resist is low enough, but understand as you get higher up in levels, you will want accuracy to increase your chances of actually landing this provoke every time. Attacks one enemy, has a 30% chance of placing a provoke. This is great. So Master Butcher is for some reason a huge provoker and then buffer, and then he heals everybody and can revive somebody. And the fact that he's constantly provoking things to attack him and then he'll revive somebody else is quite great. It's really, really great. What's nice about him as well, right, is that if you are in like your arena or if you're in a dungeon and your opponents for some reason go after, like, let's say your ninja. Right now, ninja's a free giveaway champ. They kill off your ninja first before anything happens. Well, now you have your Master Butcher going to be trying to kill himself, like literally provoking things all over the place. It is a low chance for a provoke. Understand, though, provoke is amazing. For those of you who are new to the game and might not know, provoke is like taunt in other games. So what happens is if he provokes a champion, that champion is forced to use their A1 on him. So if Master Butcher provoked Madman, Madman would have to attack with this A1, not his A2 or his A2 or his A3. And obviously, you know, if you provoke them at the right time or even early enough, right? If you provoke them early enough, he won't get off this huge damaging skill, and you might be able to prepare for it, or you might be able to shield somebody or defend them, you know, whatever. But yeah, Master Butcher has a very, very thumbs up kit. So far out of the dwarves, I would say he is the gem. He is definitely extremely noticeable. When we get to the void ones, there is another one of note, but Master Butcher is going way up in my mental list of I'm not going to sleep on him. Probably after this video, I'm going to go equip mine. By equip him, I don't necessarily mean use him right away, but I'm going to equip him, and I use him in Faction Wars right now. Anyways, Hatchet Slinger. Let's move on to Mr. Hatchet Slinger here. Apt name. I like, though, that he does have 4 hatchets. That makes me quite happy. HP is now the lowest I have seen at 10,500. He will be super squishy. He is an attack champion, so we do expect our attack champions to be squishy, but that's obnoxiously squishy. I would like to see 1,200 and 1,000, so again, we meet both of those requirements, so that's good. He is a bit on the slow side. 5 speed is kind of where I draw the line. So from 100 minus 5 would be 95. So he's a bit on the slow side. He does have the increased crit damage, though. Let's see if his attacks make up for his squishy and slow speed. Has a 5% chance of counterattacking when hit. That's a very, very low chance, by the way. Has a 25% chance of counterattacking when hit with a critical. What makes this good? This now is decent, and what's nice is they did give him a bit more defense to weather the storm, right? Defense is more of your flat damage reduction in the game. HP helps with that. Understand, though, because he has a low HP, if he has the lowest HP, more enemies will often target him. And he does have buff and chances increases here. So you can increase this up to he has a 20% chance of counterattacking when hit, and then a 40% chance to counterattack when hit with a critical. It's not bad. Obviously, you don't want your attack champions taking tons of damage, but when you're in the early game, it's going to happen no matter what. And the counterattacks could still be valuable. Let's look at the rest of his kit. I'm not happy because I think he's too squishy for this. Let's see if the rest of his kit makes up for it. Places an unkillable buff on this champion with a 7-turn cooldown, which eventually drips down to 4. That's fair. That's fair, and I like that that would still proc his hatchets for all. If he's unkillable, he still is technically being hit, and then more importantly, you can still crit somebody. You'll crit them for 0 damage. Oh, I'm sorry, it's unkillable, so he'll still take the damage. He'll drop down to 1 HP. And that's where that other, what was it, Madman, right? Madman can go through block damage and shields. He would not be able to kill, though, the unkillable Hatchet Slinger. So that's pretty cool interaction there, right? Attacks one enemy 2 times, has an 80% chance of ignoring 15% of the target's defense if this champion has 50% HP or higher. Has a 10% chance of placing a stun debuff on this champion if he's got less than 50% HP. 10% chance for a stun is really low. They do get that up to 30, so that's not bad. And the fact that he'll be constantly counterattacking, right? So you either have an 80% chance of ignoring a portion of their armor, or you have a chance to stun. Both of those things are actually not bad. He's interesting. I'm going to put him in the interesting category. That is a lot of books, unfortunately. And realistically, you'd want the books to land on this unkillable more than anything, or even the buff chance. I don't know how I feel about him. He's weird. if you really like dwarves, I think he would be fun to invest in, right? Or like if I made a new account, right, and I got him early, I would mess with him. I would absolutely mess with him. I don't think he would be great though, right? You're talking about ideally as well. I think the best and only kit I would put him in is something like the vampire set, so that when he is counterattacking, he's constantly getting back life. But with his low stats, I'd be worried about him ever surviving, ever getting going, ever surviving. He's interesting though. He's interesting and definitely usable. I'll definitely say that. And then our last for today is Gryphon Brute Bane. Warpaint's looking cool. He's another hatchet dude. It's unfortunate that they're identical there. I didn't even realize that right away. All right, he's an attack champion though. 1600 or 16,000 HP. Low on the defense, so he is squishy. He does have the 1200 attack, so that makes me happy. Very low speed. Not happy to see that. But increased crit damage. Let's look at the kit. Increases resistance of all allies in all battles by 30. So that is useful. Definitely useful in the early game. Resistance is what stops you from getting debuffs put on your characters. It's kind of a weird mechanic in a sense, though. It's not heavily praised in this game. It's good, but the problem that you have is that you first have to take damage from your opponent, and majority of debuffs in this game are also a damaging skill. So you kind of have to be willing to take some damage to the face first, and then you have to hope that your resist is higher than your opponent's accuracy. And right now the meta is all speed and accuracy, so that's going to be very hard in the arena. However, in the campaign and Doom Tower, this could be useful. Dungeons could be useful. Attacks one enemy, places an increased 15% crit rate buff on all allies if this attack is critical. That's a really nice kind of double thing, right? That you get off an attack and then you would buff everybody. A newer mechanic that the game has recently introduced is puts the crit rate on and then attacks. I would have liked to see that. Again, this champion's probably old, so can't expect too much. Not a bad skill, and it's on a 4-turn cooldown when you fully book him. So good potential there to keep the crit rate going on all your allies. If this was like one of your first spirit champions, could be great. Attacks one enemy. Damage increases by 5% for each debuff on the target. I love skills like this. I know it's a combo skill, right? And what kind of stinks is there's going to be times where you might hold off on using that skill to get more debuffs or try to get more debuffs on the target. When you get to late game, though, this is very easy for you to set up. You would, and especially with his slow speed, I mean, he'd probably be the last to go. But yeah, I like skills like this a lot. I would like to see more skills like this. That's really cool. Prey Acquired. What a great name. What a good icon and what a great name. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 30% chance of placing a 30% defense. So that's nice that he even facilitates his own skill. I would have liked to see that 60%. Again, this is me comparing it to like modern champions. If you got him early enough, he would be a cool champion. I think this would be the champion that you would want to use as a spirit attacker. If you got him early, he would be perfectly fine. Unfortunately, I will say, the later into the game you go, would you 6-star him? Probably not. And the reason why is when you get to 6-star talks, right? Crit rate kind of goes out the window. It's very easy to get that crit rate up to 100%. This still could be useful, but again, with how slow he is, you would expect him to kind of go last. Going last does not help by increasing the crit rate unless your opponent decreases your crit rate and you're using him as a counter, buffer to that. It would be odd. It would be really odd. I want to view these champions with a new player aspect, and as new player, he was definitely usable. He's definitely interesting. Because he's so slow, what's nice is that you could buff him up, or you could get plenty of debuffs off on your opponents before this Prey Acquired skill goes off. I'd be worried about him being too squishy, though. He's got HP in a good spot, but his defense is low. 700 defense does seem to be kind of a close standard for a lot of attackers, though. I will say that. So it's not like it's horrifically low. It's just low. It means he's going to be taking a lot of damage. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. Next video, we are going to be going over Dilgol. I don't know if I've ever even seen Dilgol. We're going to be going over the Void Dwarves. Void Rare Dwarves in our next video. And then we will have to jump factions. Guys, I really appreciate you watching. Means a lot to me. All these videos are fun to do. It is fun to talk over champions. If you have a faction that you'd like me to do next, or a certain champion that you'd like me to do next, please leave it in the comment section below. Otherwise, consider hitting that subscribe button down below, or join us over on twitch.tv/SprinkleBeard. Until that next time, ta-ta.